But that's not. I mean, yes, those were the biggest wins. But for long term, what LSU, who LSU has hired in the recruiting personnel department has been absolutely insane. They've hired three big time names, and the last one's really the biggest. But let's start with the timeline, and that is LSU hired the coordinator of recruiting strategy, Kevin Bolden, away from Ole Miss. Kevin Bolden actually isn't Mississippi native. Uh, and he's lived in Mississippi most of his life. He went to Southern Miss, you name it. But he worked with Austin Thomas when they were both at Ole Miss together. And Austin Thomas was the GM at Ole Miss, right? He was the GM at Ole Miss in between his two stints as GM under O, and then of course when he became the GM when Brian Kelly hired him back in Baton Rouge. And Austin Thomas and co lured Kevin Bolden away from his home state to become the assistant GM at LSU. Another person they hired, Jeff Martin. Jeff Martin is a New Orleans native, Louisiana guy. He was previously at USC the last 4 seasons as the director of scouting and player relations at USC. But before he went to USC, he was a long-time employee of LSU for over 2 decades. He's a New Orleans guy. He's an LSU alum. He actually got 3 degrees from LSU. He got his bachelor's in mass communication, which is what I have. He also has he got bachelor's in that. He got a master's in sports management. He also has a master's in kinesiology. So pretty educated man, as you could say. And he is coming back home. He is coming back to serve as the executive director of player personnel. And then the next person, really, this is the biggest one, is that LSU is set to hire Ohio State's director of player personnel and Amy native Sam Petito. Sam Petito had been a part of 4 national title runs with Alabama, Ohio State, and of course at Grambling, which was a black national championship. But he was a coach in the high school ranks of Louisiana, and then he started coaching collegiately at Southeastern Grambling, and of course he started working with Saban at Alabama. Well, he also worked at Georgia under Kirby. Well, he worked at Georgia under Mark Richt. Then he went to Alabama and served under a decade under Saban as their as one of the main recruiting executives. And then he went to Ohio State, helped them win the national championship. Now he's back home in Louisiana. He was hired. So this is from Zach Nagy of LSU Tigers on that side. LSU football has made another impressive off-field hire, with the program set to bring in Ohio State Director of Player Personnel Sam Petito. Petito, a Louisiana native with an impressive track record, spent nearly a decade working under Alabama head coach Nick Saban prior to heading to Ohio State. He was hired by Ohio State in February of 2024, where he took on the role as the Buckeyes Director of Player Personnel. Now, Petito is set to return to Bayou State, where he will serve as LSU football's Director of Scouting and Personnel Strategy, according to Rivals. It's a notable hire for Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers. With Petito bringing in championship pedigree to Baton Rouge after working under Saban for 8 seasons in Tuscaloosa. Prior to his time in Tuscaloosa, Petito was the Director of Player Personnel at Georgia for 2 seasons. After assisting in building a dynasty with the Crimson Tide, the Amite Louisiana native will make his way back to his home state. Petito's track record speaks for itself after stints with the Georgia Bulldogs, Alabama Crimson Tide, and Ohio State with LSU General Manager Austin Thomas. His spearheading the push to hire him to the off-field staff. LSU's now made 3 splash hires this week, with Petito joining Ole Miss. Ole Miss's Kevin Bolden and Southern Cal's Jeff Martin as a trio of new staffers set to make their way to Louisiana. Bolden will serve as LSU's associate director, assistant general manager, where he's set to have the opportunity to reunite with LSU's general manager Austin Thomas. And Ole Miss hired Bolden in 2022, where he's remained at Lincoln staff ever since, while handling various roles in Oxford. But yeah, I mean, that's just about it. I mean, that's really all you need to know. But Petito is a highly regarded figure in recruiting circles. And also, keep this in mind, Sam Petito was a huge reason why Blaine Bradford committed to Ohio State. So, even though Blaine Bradford shut down his recruitment and is staying committed to Ohio State, is there a possibility that LSU could flip Blaine Bradford from Ohio State? I don't know, but we'll see. But Sam Petito coming to LSU now makes me wonder if LSU could flip Blaine Bradford. I don't think it's likely, but it is definitely something to watch out for. So that's all the latest news in regards to LSU's recruiting efforts. And when we come back after this break, I'll explain to you why all of these, not only just recruiting wins, but the staff moves are extremely important for LSU's future. We'll be right back.
You can make a difference here at the Voice of College Football. Use the Amazon link. Financially contribute to the Voice of College Football without spending a penny. Same shopping experience. It's easy. Go to any video on any channel. Go to the description section and grab the link right next to the capital letters that say Amazon. Use that link, and Amazon will instantaneously convert to your account, settings, history, everything intact, just like whatever link you use right now. No difference. Pay no attention to the product that you see right there. Just go search what you want. Don't forget the Amazon link. Thank you for your support. Sincerely, the Voice of College Football.
So, this is why all these hires are very important. And look, LSU's building a monster of a class. It is building an absolute monster. And yeah, it's just amazing how much has changed for LSU. And just recent memory. Just because it just seemed like LSU in terms of NIL wasn't moving all that great. It was disorganized. The boosters didn't really know what NIL was, and even if they did, they really didn't want to spend the money because they thought it wasn't worth it. It just was an interesting time for LSU the last few seasons. But when Bryce Underwood decommitted from LSU and decided to change his commitment to Michigan and then signed with Michigan, I really think it changed a lot of people's minds on where LSU is with NIL. Actually, I think it was called the Bayou Collective or whatever they call it now. They never marketed that anybody could donate money. Everyone thought it was boosters were the ones that donated money. But in actuality, if you're a fan, you could donate $10 a month to LSU. And I don't think people even knew that. And that's what I mean by LSU just seemed so disorganized with everything. But then, I feel like because of the Bryce Underwood transfer and also having Austin Thomas on staff to fix this issue and also convince the administration, the boosters, everybody to get involved in NIL, it's really paid off in a huge way. That's how they're able to get the number one transfer portal class in the country. That's how they're able to keep some of the top recruits to stay committed and keep the guys currently on the roster to stay committed to what LSU is doing. But not only that, but to stabilize LSU, right? It just seemed like LSU was not stabilized. And now you're starting to see the stabilization of LSU athletics. It's been incredible. For example, Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers offseason, number toward transfer portal class in the country. You hire away Sam Petito, Kelvin Bolden, and Jeff Martin. You land commitments from the number one receiver and athlete in America. Top 5 2026 recruiting class, and etc. I mean, just an absolute banger of an offseason for your Fighting Tigers. Just an absolute banger. And why? Because there's cohesion. There's cohesion. And that was one of the biggest things I was worried about when we were talking about President Tate leaving LSU to go to Rutgers. Because, he was quintessentially forced out, right? By the governor. And one of the things I was worried about, it was cohesion. Because I was worried that Governor Landry could put in somebody that really wasn't in cohesion with what the athletic department is doing at LSU. But it just seems like even if there is a change, even if with the person change, it just feels like LSU is in much better cohesion than it's ever been. Kelvin Bolden had worked with Austin Thomas at Ole Miss, so there's cohesion there. There's a kind of a set mantra of what they want to accomplish. The same things that Austin Thomas is doing at LSU, he was doing at Ole Miss. That's why Ole Miss has seen a lot of success in the last few years because of their plan to use the transfer portal to build that program up. Of course, you still have to use high school recruiting, and they acknowledge that. But you also have to make sure you build up the best transfer portal class as much as you possibly can, because Ole Miss is not really a hotbed for to land some of the top recruits in the country unless they're from the same Mississippi. So they have to use NIL. And so you have that. Then you hire Martin. You hire Jeff Martin away from USC. He is from Louisiana, specifically New Orleans. He went to LSU. He worked in the football offices for over 20 years. And you bring in that. That's cohesion. Sam Petito. Yes, while he's never worked with LSU, he has helped build some monster programs. Whether it was at Ohio State, whether it was at Alabama, or whether it was at Georgia. It's just there is finally cohesion at LSU when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to NIL, when it comes to the transfer portal, it comes to the revenue sharing. It just seems like LSU is in a much better place. And you have to give a lot of credit to Brian Kelly for the job that he has done. You absolutely have to. And, I mean, just an incredible, incredible job by just the whole entire staff from the top to the bottom.